Welcome to Biz Coach and Coffee, where our guests are experts, entrepreneurs, coaches, and consultants that share tips, strategies, and tactics to help small business entrepreneurs grow their business for long-term success. Please welcome your host, Biz Coach Steve Feld.
Well, hello, everyone. I am Biz Coach Steve Feld, and my goal is to stop business owners from suffering entrepreneurial depression and start making running their businesses much easier. Business owners and entrepreneurs hire me to crack multiple 6 and 7 figures without burning themselves out. So welcome to Biz Coach and Coffee. Today, we have another wonderful guest with us who's going to share some amazing things. Kevin Stafford. Kevin is the director of marketing at Boxer Media and host of the Conversations with Coaches podcast, where he gets to talk with coaches of all kinds about how they found their start, who they focus their work on, and how they facilitate growth that all that coaching is about. So please welcome Kevin. How are you doing today? So tell us a little bit about what you do and who you serve.
I like the framing of that question. What you do and who you serve, because that is one and the same kind of question. But I don't know if enough people think about it that way. I don't know if I thought about it that way until I got a little more mature, personally and professionally, realizing that what I do with my life, what I do professionally, is a question of who I'm serving. And I primarily serve coaches in many different forms. Obviously, director of marketing at Boxer. Boxer is a media and marketing agency geared primarily, almost exclusively towards coaches and coaching. A little bit like consultants, a little bit like people who have that kind of role, but primarily coaches. And I function as a bit of a jack of all trades, doing a little bit of this, a little bit of that, doing some copywriting and copy editing, doing some graphics work, doing a lot of strategy and tactical conversations and thinking, building automations and executing those automations. Little email marketing, a little bit of this, a little bit, basically whatever. Podcasting, of course, is one of the things I love to do. And that's sort of emerged. And I think we'll get to talk about that a little bit as we go on, as something that really became a great way to serve our people, just to offer value, to provide platform, to raise the level and raise the tide of everybody that we both are working with and want to be associated with and want to serve. But yeah, that's basically I know I said a lot of things there. That's a good summary of what I do in the context of Boxer's work.
So when the coaches come to you, what's like their big problem?
Ooh, that's a good one. I find that there is a small, like most people, when they describe their problem, they're usually using specific terminology to describe a common problem. And so I'll hear about various, like maybe there's stress, maybe they're having trouble balancing personal and professional life, but then you start to chip away at things or whatever. And it typically boils down to a time issue where, for one reason or another, or lots of different reasons, the coach will feel as if there's just not enough time in the day to do all the things that they both want to do and need to do. And this goes for personal and professional across the board. A lot of coaches spend a lot of time running their coaching business without and not so much coaching, kind of really like their success is almost taking them away from their passion and what they're really good at. And I find that ends up being like, you scratch the surface a little bit. And that's a very, very common pain point for a lot of the coaches I talk to. And some of them are in varying degrees of overcoming that, succeeding through it, basically putting in systems and processes to help them, hiring help like Boxer, or just having like a trusted associate or assistant. Having a group of coaches that they work with themselves where the load's distributed, et cetera, et cetera. And then also there's the issues of prioritizing, like understanding that that's at the heart of their issues, and then prioritizing solving their time issues, which then begins to solve all sorts of other issues in their life, like the amount of time they're spending with their family. And that's another value too that I find very common amongst coaches, is they're all very family oriented, and they all very much care about being a good parent, a good spouse, a good everything to the people in their life that matter. Again, they're servants at heart. Right. So really, I think it does come down to, very frequently, a matter of time.
Yeah, it's amazing how many business owners, small business owners especially, it's that shiny object syndrome. I see it with coaches and entrepreneurs. And then they wonder why they don't have time, or they say that I'm so busy, fill in the blank after that. And then when you really look at their calendar, it's like you're creating work for yourself.
Mm-hmm. A very good friend of mine and also associate likes to say, show me your calendar and I'll show you your priorities.
Yes.
Just look at the boxes, look at the cubes, look at the calendar, look what it's filled up with, and just like sit with it for a minute. Just look at your day. Is that taking you where you want to go?
Yeah.
And if not, there's a good place to start making some changes.
That's a great point. Now, I'm a big believer. I live and die by my calendar, and I color code everything. So if I don't see certain colors on there, I know what did I not do correctly to get the appointments, to get all this and that. And then when I see too much of another color, it's like, that's the busy work. Let's get those off of operating times.
I really like that. Visualization is such a important part of understanding where your issues lie, where your pain points lie, where there's room for improvement. And that's a lot of times coaches, I mean, entrepreneurs of all stripes, that's where they'll lose their way, is they'll understand and feel somewhere inside of them that there's just a problem that they can't solve. But because they don't have either a way to visualize it or the language to describe it, they can't begin the process of addressing it. And I feel like that's where coaches so frequently come in, is being able to help give you the language and give you the visualizations to really understand, oh, that feeling I've been having for months, maybe years, that sense of stagnancy, this is why. Or at the very least, this is the heart of it, and this is the place to start. And then all of a sudden, it's like the floodgates open.
Yeah, I mean, I had to do this the middle of last year when I realized I didn't have time for lunch. So I had to put on my calendar and dinner. And I thought, is it that bad? And I thought, no, that's me time. That's rejuvenation time. It's break time. And then I started reading like the psychology of these things. And it's like, it's always been on my calendar since, because you need that moment to break it up, and you got to supply yourself with nutrients as well. Otherwise, the brain starts going, the body will start going. Same with exercise. Amazing how many people don't block out time for exercise. They think, well, I'll get to it when I get to it. Well, you've been saying that for things in your business as well.
Mm-hmm. If you don't schedule it, I mean, think about the way you run your business. And if something doesn't show up on your calendar, does it get forgotten? Does it get missed?
It just doesn't happen.
Not all the time, but yeah. And I feel like that's so important too. That's a great point that people, I think, overlook way too easily as a really good place to start. If you're having trouble taking care of yourself in the ways that you need taken care of, if you're having trouble serving yourself and the people closest to you, just start. If you need somewhere to start on your calendar. Block off time for exercise, block off time for food, block off family time, block off a date night, block off your sleep time. Like that's maybe one of the most important things I've done for myself over the last 5, maybe 10 years is take my sleep seriously. Yeah. And it's not just about buying like the latest sleep tracker or whatever. I have one of those Aura rings that I love. But what all this does is tell me what I need to know about the quality and the quantity of my sleep. It's like, okay, if I make a mistake, like say I eat too late in the day, my biometrics, the things I've put in place to tell me that will tell me that. It'll show up and like, okay, right. So I feel tired and feel like I need an extra cup of coffee today. Well, I always want an extra cup of coffee, but I feel like I need an extra cup of coffee today. Maybe because, I had that late night snack and I didn't really sleep as well as I thought I did. And I'm feeling fatigued in the middle of the afternoon. It's like a small example of just like when you start taking the foundational stuff seriously when it comes to your health, sleep, fitness, quality time with family, your diet, exercise, everything, it just starts to pay off. It starts to pay off immediately in ways that you're not ready to see. Like you're like, oh, it'll be like a revelation. You'll feel like a new person. I know it's a big promise, but it's such a great place to start and so easily overlooked.
Oh, I totally agree. I know one coach blocks out 10 hours for sleep. I'm like, oh my God, I can't fathom that because my whole life I've never 10 hours. I must be sick. It affects me differently because I don't need as much sleep as that person. But they said, okay, I blocked 10 hours. That means 9 hours I have to be in bed and wake up. 10 hours. And they go, it's vital to my life. And they are some of the most high charged person that you'll ever meet throughout the day. They are so hyper focused because of that sleep regimen that they have on, but they block it. It's blocked. So you got to see there's times we're out with a whole bunch of coaches and we're talking, and something, her watch goes off and she goes like, I have to go, got to go to bed. It's really,
I love that commitment. And that commitment, that's a great expression. Where it's like when you commit to yourself, you are also committing to the service of all the people that you intend to serve. And it begins with you. I love that. And I also love like the way you like throw out 10 hours there, and like how you're like, maybe you don't need 10 hours. And that's the thing too. The one thing that I love about coaching, and one of the things I love about receiving coaching, is that you get the standard wisdom. It's like, you should sleep more and better. Yeah. Okay. That's duh. But also it's going to be different for you than it's going to be for everything else. You specifically, physiologically, biologically, might need more or less, depending on how old you are, depending on previous conditions. You will need something specific that speaks to something very general and universal. And that's, I know I keep coming back to talking about coaches, but I really have fallen in love with the entire industry across the board, because it's those common principles and that call to service, and that just being, specialized and specific to someone's needs, while also bringing just the general, essentially like wisdom that's required to move forward and grow.
Yeah, we're all a little bit different. We got to realize that, because we have different needs, wants, everything. It's like, and it just still blows me away. I'm thinking, wow, I'd love to get 10 hours. I wouldn't know what to do with myself.
10 hours. I'll be thinking about that all day.
I'm going to think, how can I do that this weekend? I know
one
idea.
day.
My sleep in day is usually Sundays, and I might sleep until like 7:30. I get up at 5:30 every day.
Nice.
Because it's good for me.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to take a quick break and listen to a little message from our sponsor, but we will be right back with Kevin.
This episode is sponsored by Spotlight Books. Get your expert book completed in 30 days. If you don't have an expert lead magnet book about you and how you serve your market, then visit www.spotlight-books.com. Link is also in the show notes. Put a spotlight on your expertise.
And we're back. Great. We've been talking about schedule and how that changes your business if you are regimented. It also gets rid of, I want to say, the shiny object syndrome. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I feel like that is one of the best inoculations against the shiny object syndrome, is that strict scheduling. Because really, it's one of those things where we're human. We're going to be attracted to shiny objects. It's to a certain degree evolutionary. It's biological, literally, and also we're extending the metaphor. And so having the ability to preserve your ability to be impressed or to be awed by something, or just to be intrigued or interested or curious, those are all things that play into shiny object syndrome, but do not have to develop into a full-blown shiny object syndrome and then hijack the rest of your day, the rest of your life, the rest of your business. And so I really like that regimented scheduling is a really good, almost like a circuit breaker. That might be a better analogy. It's like a circuit breaker against shiny object syndrome, where you can still pursue interesting, curious things that are maybe a little bit outside of what you need to be focusing on, but that actually does so in a way that serves your overall goals, as opposed to hijacks them. I think that's the sum total. And I say that as a frequent sufferer of shiny object syndrome.
That's every entrepreneur and business owner in the world. I mean, this is something that I learned from one of my coaches, like, I don't know how long ago. They said, block out just even a half hour at 2 different times of the day for emails. At the rest of the day, it's off. And I live on it, and I've had people going, why didn't you reply right away? And I'm like, I only look at them like 2 times a day. And that wasn't the time, because shiny object syndrome will affect you. Because now you're thinking, well, I got 3 minutes and I need to do this project for a half hour. So this will just pop in and out of email. There's that one email now. It's going to take up that 30 minutes and another hour. And you've just lost the 30 minutes you had scheduled for a income producing activity, and you're focusing on an email.
Mm-hmm. Not that email isn't important.
Right.
It's just that you got it out of order. And it lowers the quality of everything else you're doing. You're not giving that email the right attention. You didn't give the task at hand the right attention. I like the fact too, income driven. It's like, that's really what it takes sometimes to motivate you to make the changes you need to make, like these strict boundaries. Is you have to think of it as, I could have been, should have been, had planned to be doing this thing that is designed to generate revenue for my business. It is a vital component of my business and going forward. And yet I chose not to do it because this email popped up in my inbox when I was looking, and I decided to answer it. And then 90 minutes later, I'm back, and that time is just gone. And you really don't give anything the right kind of attention when you let yourself fall into those kinds of traps.
That's so true. Or you get the business owner, coach, I mean, whoever, it's blocking time for calls, outbound calls, to generate revenue, to get customers. And a lot of times what I see is like, what did you do with that time if they did block it? And I always hear, well, what do you mean? I'm researching who to call. It's like, no, that's call out time. When do you have on your calendar to research time? What do you think of that? I mean, do you come across coaches that say, well, that's where I spent the time and not what it should have been?
I find that personally, professionally, like honestly, specific for coaches, sure, but I find that to be a frequent human failing. Yeah. Is you just tell yourself a little story so that you can avoid doing the thing you don't want to do. Now, and maybe you enjoy some calls. Maybe you're like the kind of person who really enjoys sales calls. Not a lot of people are like that. Or they have a certain degree to which they like it, at which point they don't like it anymore. Maybe you don't like the research side. You just like to get on the phone with people and figure it out in the flow. And so you trick yourself into not doing the research because, oh no, I was on calls. I was out there beating the streets. I was, dialing. I was on the dial pad all day.
Right.
But to flip it back around, because I think most people will struggle with preparing to do something rather than doing the thing, because the preparation kind of allows you to get the feeling that you're doing the thing without actually doing the thing. It's almost like, and this one I am guilty as charged. It's like buying a book and putting it on your shelf and feeling the satisfaction as if you had read it when you didn't.
Good.
It's a little bit like that. And that one's like, that's like, I'm skewered. But yeah, same thing too, where it's just like, I will dive into prep and research and count that towards the time I know I should be spending talking to people.
Right.
And it's just a trick I'm playing on myself to avoid doing the thing that for whatever reason I'm a little uncomfortable doing. And if I could acknowledge that, if I'm just like, if I get my motivations right, I'm not preparing for the call, I'm avoiding doing the thing I don't want to do. I'm trying not to eat the frog, so to speak, Yes. And so if I could just identify what my motivations truly are and not the BS I might be telling myself about my motivations, then I can begin to start making some changes and realize, you know what? I do need to schedule this research and prep time separately, because I'm letting it bleed into time that I'm supposed to be spending on calls. And so that'll tell me I got to block that out. That gets its own time. And then I get this other block that's for the calls. And I just have to basically whip myself into shape by being rigorously honest with myself.
That's true. Because when it's call time, it's call time. It's not research time, because that delays call time. Yeah, I do my research time actually on Sundays while I watch a game or something, because to me, it's kind of relaxing. You know what? I don't want to do it at operating hours, because then when it's call time during the week, so now I have my list for every day that I need to call. It's done. It's ready to go. There's no thought into it. It's it's time to do it. Pick up the phone and go.
Yep. And you've built a structure that allows you to do the right things at the right times and the right ways for you. And that's really what it comes down to. And I could tell the way you speak about it, you've done the rigorous work. You've done the foundational work. You've figured out what works, not just well for you, but what works great for you. And you've structured your life and your calendar accordingly, so that when the time comes, and I love the way you described it. It just sounds easy. It's just like, oh, now's the time to be on calls.
It is. And you got to put let's totally eat that frog. For those of you who haven't read Brian Tracy, Eat That Frog. It'll all make sense. But you're doing that big, audacious, hairy thing. You do that first. Guess what? Everything after that is easy. So eat that frog. And calls are usually the frog.
They're often the frog. I actually have Eat the Frog on a sticky note that I move to wherever I'm being distracted. I have it written up on like a dry erase board, but I'll put it on a sticky note and I'll put it where like my Slack window is, or where I keep my inbox on my desktop, and I'll stick it over there. So whenever I'm tempted to look over, it's like, I'm not eating the frog.
You have to call a client and give them bad news. eat the frog. Just make the call. It's not going to be as bad as it is. If you delay it, this gets in the way. You hype yourself up, anxiety, all these things, and it would have taken you 30 seconds or a minute, and you're done.
Yeah, all you do by delaying is inflate it with hot air and make it seem bigger than it really is.
So, that's a great point. I know we can go on all day about this.
This is fun.
Wrap up, but I'm a giver. I know you're a giver. Is there something you can give our listeners to really help them in their businesses?
My favorite thing to give these days is, and again, in the true art of giving, it's as much a gift to myself as it is to everyone else. But I love conversations like this, and it's why I have my Conversations with Coaches podcast. It's primarily talking with coaches about coaching, about their journey. But it really, I've drawn in we're talking like fitness coaches and sports coaches, as well as executive coaches and career coaches, relationship coaches. Goes on and on and on. Consultants here and there, mentorship, people who are very, very much they would really better be described as mentors. But it's like there's all these different branches on the tree that I kind of consider to be coaching, or just essentially organized professional service. And anybody who is interested or feels like that they would benefit from talking with me and just talking about how they got on their journey to being a coach and how they choose to serve. That's like your opening question. I would love to have them on my podcast. It is delightful. I think I make it good for the guests. Steve, you were on the podcast not very long ago. I think you enjoyed yourself decently. We may have talked a little bit too much hockey, but that's just the way it goes sometimes. Yeah. But yeah, I would love to have you on the pod. And I would love to talk also just about how just any other way that we can help. That's why I'm at Boxer, is because we really care and we ground ourselves in service. And the moment that we don't is probably the moment that I'm gone. But I'm very glad to be here right now. And I think I'll be here for a very, very, very long time, because I don't know, I won't stay anywhere that's not grounded in service. And it's why I love coaches, and it's why I love Boxer. So long story short, come on the pod, let's chat, I'll have a good time. I'll put you at your ease. We'll talk about fun stuff and exciting stuff and really the meat and potatoes of service. So
great. And we will have that link in the show notes. So please take Kevin up on his offer. Well, Kevin, it was a pleasure having you on. I want to say thank you very much. And I know we've been talking about seeing other things that we can help each other out to help grow our own businesses as well. And that's what I always recommend to all business owners, entrepreneurs, coaches. See what else you can build with someone else.
I love it.
Well, I just want to say thank you again, Kevin. Wish everyone out there much business success. This is Biz Coach Steve Feld. Have a great day.
We hope you enjoyed today's topic. If you'd like to discuss how you can apply these strategies in your business, let us know. This episode is sponsored by Spotlight Books. Get your own expert book written about you in 30 days. Set yourself apart from the competition. Make sure you like and subscribe to this channel. Also, feel free to give us your comments. We look forward to hearing from you on Biz Coach and Coffee.